Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Jones here with Sam Choudhury to take a first look at the DraftKings and FanDuel Super Bowl showdown slates. Millie up top over on DraftKings, usually Millie up top on DraftKings, but FanDuel joined in on the fun. So there's a Millie up top over on FanDuel, too. Speaking of a Millie up top, Two Gun, our resident DFS expert over at FTN Daily, won himself another $1 million. Fifth time winning $1 million. This is just last week, just on the two gamer. Crazy.
Just one
Crazy.
time. Give me a Millie win just one time.
Just one time, dude. I think he had 20 lineups, if I'm not mistaken. It was the high dollar Millie maker. I mean, but he has found his niche over there for sure. It's crazy. So we're gonna do the first look over here tonight, and it's Thursday the week before. We've got 10 days or so to go, and then Alex and Two Gun are going to do the FTN daily morning show the day of the Super Bowl. That's going to be behind the paywall. That's going to come with all of Alex's ownership projections, which he has just owned. Alex and the team, I should say, they've just owned this entire season. They're going to be loaded into the optimizer. We'll have our expert plays, our core articles. My showdown article will be out, and it will be a big one. I plan on spending a lot of time on that, get another showdown win this season. And if you are not a member of FTN Daily, it is not too late. We got the big game. Plus, we're rolling right along with NBA and Alex. What's the title? He's got the Fantasy Golf Writer of the Year going for a repeat. Good luck, Alex. His content's up for PGA. If you want to join us at FTN Daily, use promo code FTNSB, FTN Super Bowl, FTNSB for 25% off your daily packages. And you can use that over on bets too, I'm pretty sure. So get in on the fun for the Super Bowl. Sam,
are we just gonna blow by your 100K win last night? Are you gonna even talk about it? Or congrats, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess since you bring it up, yeah, no, I had a good one last night. Single bullet, 100K in the NBA streets. Just playing all those lovely narratives I love to chew on. And I don't know, man, I just happened to fall into the right one. Played a couple Bulls guards. Kind of stacked up that Charlotte Bulls game. You know, a lot of people weren't on it. My point guard who dropped 57 was 1% owned. So that's always nice. I was on him in the FTN Discord. So yeah, good night for me. I lock for NBA's in 15 minutes. And I just used the opto and churned out 150 lineups. I'm going to see if I can repeat. You don't stop when you're on a heater, Sam. You don't stop. So
no.
I'm playing again. What's good with you, buddy? How we feeling here with the Super Bowl coming up? Are we tied up on the picks now? Did you go 2-0 last week and tie us up on the season long stuff?
Yeah, exactly, tied. But yeah, no, I mean, it just feels weird, like not having like a week of football to prepare for. I mean, I guess it's kind of relaxing, but then it's like what should I be doing right now? You know, it's just like the week's going by and it's like so much free time on my hands. But yeah,
it's just a lot of prep for the Super Bowl, which a lot of people get bogged down with trying to make like the craziest lineup possible. Like I have to be different. I have to separate myself. If I solo this thing, I want to do it by myself. How do I make sure I don't have the same team as everybody else? How about you just try and win? How about you just try and win and control the controllables? And look, if someone else has your lineup, ties you for $1 million, then you tied someone for $1 million. I'm pretty sure that's not a bad thing. What I wouldn't do is start going down, and people play it differently, but the way I play it is I try and score the most points. All right. I'm not trying to make the craziest lineup imaginable, hoping, my lucky day comes in. It served me well. Just build the best lineup you can. And you would be surprised too. I mean, this, you see it all the time. Like people solo the Millie like a reasonable amount of the time. And if they're not soloing it on these showdown slates because there's just a ton of combinations, I don't think people understand how many combinations you can make. Then they're splitting it and, everyone's walking away with 50 grand or 100K or 200K. Like it's not a bad day. Just build the best lineup you can.
I think that's one of the biggest things to remember is like you really don't have to get so far off the board. I mean, like a few years back, the Thunderdome for the Super Bowl, I think it's like a 45-man contest, which is way different. But I remember I ended up splitting first, which was I think first was 80K, so it was 40K to both. But it was something as simple as like Darrell Henderson was a punt option because he was activated super last minute. his price didn't adjust. But like instead of playing Henderson as my punt, I went down to Bryson Hopkins, who was the tight end 2 that week because Tyler Higbee was out. I mean, I sun ran that slate. Like whoever the starting tight end was went down in like the first quarter or something. So Hopkins ended up being the starter. But regardless, it was just making a simple swap there. And like other than that, it was almost like playing an optimal lineup. So you really don't have to get too far off the board, really at all.
I mean, you make a good point there too about like you benefited from the injury and your backup guy kind of got in. I also like to make sure when I'm building in the FTN Opto to put in a rule in there saying that you're like, if you've got someone like, I don't know, let's say Braden Willis, who's going to be tight end 3 for the 49ers, or, you know, Charlie Warner's in front of him. He does more of like the blocking stuff, but I probably wouldn't put a backup tight end in with Kittle, because the only way they're getting there, Kittle's going out there and playing 100% of the snaps in the Super Bowl, played 97 last week. Only way they're really going to be involved in the game is if Kittle goes down. So you don't want to like get lucky and get a Braden Willis touchdown and still play George Kittle, because that's coming directly off his plate, one would assume. And you can go through every position and do that. The running backs, you saw it with CMC and Mitchell last week. CMC in the $20 Millie Maker was not on the winner, I don't think. High scoring player on the slate, I want to say. No, maybe that was Kelsey. He was up there. Doesn't matter. But let's talk about 49ers and Chiefs Super Bowl. Go through the captains, go through the teams, go through the positions. We'll do some slate breakers at the end there and pick some weird guys, weird guy touchdowns, predict the game, predict the score, and get the hell out of here and be done for the season. So what do you say, Sam? Let's start off with, let's just kind of do like our let's go captains like we usually do. Favorite captain plays. Again, early look. Might change in the article. Probably not. I know where I'm kind of going, but who's someone you've got circled on the slate you have to have?
Yeah, I think I'm really digging Isaiah Pacheco's price down here. He's only 12K for your captain, but you look at it where he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's the 7th highest priced player, and I mean outside of CMC, there just isn't a better bet on touches in this game. I mean, I can definitely see Isaiah Pacheco out touching CMC. Obviously, you know, I mean CMC is the best fantasy player, just hands down across all teams, but when you look at Isaiah Pacheco's usage, especially with the way the NFL landscape is now, you really don't get a 3-down workhorse running back anymore. But that's really all Isaiah Pacheco has been really since McKinnon's been down. Even when McKinnon was playing, he was still the dominant rusher, about in that low 70-ish% rush share. But now since McKinnon went down, it's sort of skewed because in garbage time, specifically in the Miami game, we saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire sort of grind it out towards the fourth quarter when it was out of reach. But you look at it in just close competitive games, it's Isaiah Pacheco is a 90% guy. Even when he's banged up, like they want to get this dude out there any means possible, which makes sense. They definitely don't want CEH back there either getting the rock or just protecting Mahomes. So yeah, for a lot of times in captain, it's like either you want obviously the highest scoring player on the slate, or it's a punt option. And then the option I feel like that normally most of my lineups is it's just a volume based guy. Obviously, you get that multiplier, so you just constantly churn through points with Isaiah Pacheco. And you look at the 2 point spread, I feel like if it's a close game, it just feeds right into him. So yeah.
He's priced nice down there. I know people are going to say, "Oh, you know, San Francisco's defense great." Well, it's two best teams left in the NFL. You're going to have to, you know, you can't rely completely on that. Obviously, you got to play some of these guys. I think Pacheco's a great call. Only 8K. He's right down there by Rice, who's one of my favorite plays on the slate, and Kittle. Kittle's only 6'4". That's incredibly low for George Kittle. I don't know how I'm just noticing that, but I'm with you on Pacheco. My top guy, look, it's not going to be a big shocker here. I like him more on FanDuel at the MVP than I do at the captain over on DraftKings, because I think someone can surpass him in the value, or what am I trying to say here? Surpass them in value on DraftKings easier than they can on FanDuel, because FanDuel, the salaries don't change. So you just need the highest score. FanDuel MVP, you need the highest value guy that also scores a lot of points. At the captain on DraftKings, it can't just be the best value. Like a touchdown at $200 isn't going to do it for you on this slate and the Super Bowl slate. What I'm trying to say is Christian McCaffrey, like I'm just playing him. Like, Sam, do I fade Christian McCaffrey on showdown slates?
No.
Why you don't fade Christian McCaffrey on showdown slates? You don't fade Jalen Hurts on showdown slates. You don't fade Josh Allen on showdown slates. You don't fade Christian McCaffrey on showdown slates. What that does, it just locks up one of your positions and you build around him because he's getting in the end zone once, maybe twice. He's going to be one of the top 4 or 5 highest scoring players on the slate. You have to play Christian McCaffrey and figure out a way to build around him. That's just all there is for me. When you look at the matchups going like against the KC D line, the KC secondary, the San Francisco D line, San Francisco secondary, the Kansas City rush D is the worst via DVOA on the board, and Christian McCaffrey is the best fantasy player in the world. So I'm going to be playing Christian McCaffrey. Will I play him some captain on DraftKings? Yeah, but I'm going to make it more of a priority over on FanDuel. So I don't know, man. Pretty easy to me. Just lock him in. And you'll hear all throughout the week people, we got to get off McCaffrey. He's too expensive. Other people are going to be on him. What's the ownership? It doesn't matter. Play Christian McCaffrey, build around him, let everyone else overthink it. What do you think about CMC? Then do you got another guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, so that's sort of what I was talking about. I mean, like I said, I want my captain. It's really three options. It's a mid-tier volume guy. It's the guy that I think is going to be the highest scoring player on the slate, or it's a punt guy. And I think CMC is that other option for me, the highest scoring player on the slate. I definitely project him to be the highest scorer. Obviously, when you have the highest scorer with the multiplier, that's huge for your lineup. I mean, the only case against it is just it's not CMC in your lineup. It's CMC in captain. Is who else are you sacrificing? Like, what does CMC at captain? Um, what does he impede you from putting into your lineup? But I don't know, just sort of making lineups. Like you can see that if CMC has a 30 burger and like none of these guys really have monstrous games, like he could just be the guy that you need at the captain with the multiplier, and you can sort of find enough replaceable points. Like maybe Patrick Mahomes. I mean, maybe he just has a game that he has had all season long where it's like a 15 to 18-ish point game, and CMC, because he had 30 in your multiplier, you just didn't need Patrick Mahomes, even if maybe Mahomes was a top 5 scoring player on the slate, just because he outscored the field by so much. So he's definitely gonna be a priority captain for me. I think you hit it on the head. You look at Casey's defense; it's been great, but they have been susceptible to the run. They're top 5 overall in DVOA against the pass and 27th against the run. So you got to imagine Kyle Shanahan has something planned around that. So I think it's a great matchup for CMC. I don't think that this isn't gonna be a captain for me, because I don't think I really want to play the quarterbacks at captain, but just because they're so bad against the rush, it's actually a pretty good matchup for quote unquote rushing quarterbacks. Brock Purdy isn't someone that has been a rushing quarterback. We've seen in the playoffs he's been a lot more mobile, averaging over 31 yards per game these last 2 games. And obviously, Purdy isn't Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but both of those guys had over 50 rushing yards in back-to-back games. But you even look at the regular season, the Chiefs are one of 11 teams that allowed over 20 rushing yards to quarterbacks. So just all around, you look at even Deebo Samuel, the handful of carry he gets. Anyone that is getting the ball in their hand in the run game is going to be a solid play on the field. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Just that KC is a great defense, but definitely can be had on the ground.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Brock Purdy kind of in the same breath as like the Christian McCaffrey talk. Because the way that I'm probably going to approach this one, typically do approach it. I was going to say play either McCaffrey or Purdy, because that's where you assume San Francisco is going to score a touchdown, obviously. So it's either going to come from McCaffrey or Purdy, most likely, unless Deebo Samuel, runs one in, something like that. But typically I'll do something like Bill, like forcing McCaffrey, Purdy, Moody, the kicker, or the Kansas City defense, because one of those 4 has to score points. One of those 4 has to put points on the board. CMC scores the San Francisco touchdown, he gets it. QB scores it, Purdy gets it. If they move it down the field and don't score it, then maybe Moody gets a couple kicks in. If none of those 3 things happen, Kansas City defense had a good game. So that's one of the rules that I incorporate into my showdown builds. Shouldn't give away all the goods for free. Shouldn't give them all away. I'm also going to most likely be forcing in one of the quarterbacks, Mahomes or Purdy, clearly. You would have to think one of these guys in. I guess you could just double stack the running backs, but I want Mahomes or Purdy, and I'm going to let my lineup kind of dictate the build there. If I have to choose one, probably going Patrick Mahomes, because when you say it out loud, Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy, not to shit on Purdy. Purdy's good. Purdy's better than people give him credit for. He's getting this game manager, bullshit these days.
He's great.
Yeah, he's in his second year in the Super Bowl, and everyone's like, he's not that good. He's got good pieces around him. Well, newsflash: every NFL team has good pieces around him. A lot of the bad play comes from the quarterback, unless we're talking about who's a really terrible team, like the Arizona Cardinals. Besides their tight end, something like that. There are bad teams, but don't shit on the guy too hard. I like Rashee Rice a pretty good deal. Now as a captain option. We'll get into like the positional breakdown stuff here too. I like Rashee Rice. With the Chiefs, it's going to Pacheco, Rice, or Kelsey. I've been putting that rule in all the Chiefs articles. Rice or Kelsey, like the last 6 weeks or so, keeps working. So if I don't have Kelsey, I'm probably going to want Rice. And when I'm looking at matchups, like San Francisco is good against tight ends, but it's Travis Kelsey. That doesn't really matter. Kansas City's good against tight ends, but it's George Kittle. It doesn't really matter, especially at the salary. When I'm looking at all the receiving positions on both sides of the field, what do I want to attack the most? It's probably they're all good positions, both good defenses. But if I have to choose a spot, it's probably going to be the slot up against San Francisco. And that's what Rashee Rice is going to run out of 49% of the time. When you go and look at like the San Francisco guys, not in as good of a spot, not to get ahead of myself. We'll talk about them more in a second. But you also know Rice is getting the volume. He's got my favorite spot in the slot against 49ers for any wide receiver. So I'm going to be pretty high on Rice. He's only 7,600. Let's take a look at what the dude's been doing. Reminder, him or Kelsey goes off every week, but 9 targets last week, 12.6, might even do it on a showdown. Against Buffalo wasn't his game. Game before that, 30. Game before that, 20. Game before that, 11, 24, 19, 14, 27. All of that gets it done on a showdown. I know he was cheaper back then, but he's going to be the dude. So give me Rashee Rice as my favorite wide receiver on the slate and very viable captain. I would put Patrick Mahomes with him most likely. Any Rice takes, any more captain takes, or you just kind of want to churn through this and find them as we go?
Yeah, I'll touch on Rice real quick. He's actually my second favorite captain. Really, I'm just having a tough time between Pacheco and Rice because they're right there, right next to each other, about the same price. And you can sort of tell a story about their. I mean, I think that they can both have a great game. And just picking between who your captain is, because again, they're the same price. I feel like that could be a determining factor. So a lot of my lineups is just going to be swapping the two at captain. But back to the Rice point, I mentioned that in the captain, I either want the highest scoring guy on the slate or a mid tier guy with volume. Rice is that mid tier guy with volume here. And you look, he hasn't had 50 yards in back to back games, even though he was a monster to close out the regular season. But you look at week 12 on, and I'm specifically using week 12 because that was the first time that he got elevated to a full-time player. From week 12, he consistently saw his snap rate go up until he was running a route on 80 to 95% plus of Patrick Mahomes' dropback. So since then, he still leads the team with a 27% target share. He's averaging 9 targets, 7 receptions, and 82.3 receiving yards per game. And that includes the last 2 weeks where, again, he didn't even have 50 yards in back to back games. So I do think he's just a great bet on volume. And as great as San Francisco's defense has been, a lot of this is because of the blowout game scripts they've been involved in. But they'll have the 4th most receptions to wide receivers. And wide receiver 1 specifically saw the 6th most targets in the NFL. I see this comment over here by Chris. It says Mahomes casts a wide net of the random dudes you don't know where the ball is going, like in SF. I think it's the opposite. Yeah, MVS and guys like that will catch 1 to 2 passes, but I think you get all of the production through Rashee Rice and Travis Kelsey. So I feel like I definitely want to make a rule to have either Rice or Kelsey because Kelsey, I mean, him in the playoffs, he has a 30% target share just this postseason. So he's sort of outdoing Rice there. But again, you look at the longer sample, it is still Rice with a slight leg up on Travis Kelsey. But I mean, that price is just great to get to Rice, and he has been limited with the ankle and toe injury. So I think 2 weeks of rest now. Again, his volume has still been great, even though it was a quiet week last week. So I really think it's a big bounce back spot for Rice.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about the point you made about Mahomes. I also think Chris, I think you said in the comments is right, is in that Mahomes has a lot of options to throw it to, but where the volume's going to go. So both right, but I agree with your side more. It feels like I don't know if he miscommunicated that a little bit or something. I'm trying to be nice for once on one of these shows. But the thing with all of Mahomes' wide receivers too. So you're going to have Watson. Tony's going to be active. We'll talk about him. MVS, Hardman's going to be active. Richie James going to be active. Ross might be active. Depends. Probably not if you've got Sky Moore and Tony active as well. Smith isn't going to be active. So he has a lot of places to throw it, including Noah Gray and CEH, but you know where the volume's going to go. Now, what some people might try and do, and I've tried to do this, I've tried to force in one of these scrub wide receivers because it's like when I'm MMEing for Kansas City, it's like because one of them's going to go off, right? Because it's Patrick Mahomes and someone's got to catch the ball and they're all cheap. So one of them's going to go off. Really has not been the case. Like MVS, Hardman, James, Watson, Sky Moore, Tony, they all are just guys. Like even if, let's say, one of those guys catches a 50-yard touchdown, yeah, you're going to want to have him in the flex. You do not need that in the captain, in my opinion. Is it a value play? Yeah. Would it potentially be a 10x or something like that? Yeah, sure. But a 60-yard, 50, 60-yard touchdown from, let's call it, say, MVS, or maybe even someone, any one of those guys, it's not going to exceed what any of these guys I'm about to name are going to do at the captain spot. You're not going to get more points than Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, and George Kittle. You have to beat the entire group, and you're not going to. So I don't think you need to go and punt all sorts of weird guys at the captain. I know you get to load up your flex spots if you do that. Just put the punts in the flex for me. Put the punts in the flex. With this game in particular, if it's two different teams, we can talk about it differently, but that's how I'm seeing it. And I pretty much just listed off the guys that I would only consider rostering at captain. It'll be in the article. I'll rank them, but Kittle and up on DraftKings, that's about it for me. I just made the point. You're not going to beat them all. Not going to beat them all with some, Kadarius Toney, if he even gets to dress out this game. Kittle at the price, very viable captain. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. Ayuk or Samuel. I think there's been better spots for him, but they're all viable. But we kind of listed our favorite guys. Again, this is the first look show. Any other kind of captain talk you want to do? Let's just jump into, let's say, the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Kittle and up is a good rule of thumb. So,
Christian McCaffrey, talked about him. Mitchell came in and got the last 5 snaps, the end of the last game, because they were going to win it, and he got his opportunity to get the touchdown, got right in there. 9% of snaps. CMC played 91. Mitchell, look, he might get in there. Dude, he might not. He might not get in there. It's the Super Bowl. It might just be Christian McCaffrey, 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, he did get in there, but what is that? Was that the first time in the postseason that he even touched the ball? I'm trying to look.
Oh, I don't know. But if that's the Super Bowl, I think McCaffrey, what was he like, gassed or something maybe? But if it's the Super Bowl, that's McCaffrey getting the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the week before. He had a 2% snap share, so it was like literally like his shoe came off, or he was getting some water that he stepped on the field. So yeah, I would not shock me if Mitchell just doesn't step foot on the field. So
people might remember the touchdown from last week and say, "Hey, this guy can get it done at 2,800, 6.7 points." Might go game log watching some of these people that don't know what they're doing and see, hey, he strung together 2 good games against Washington and LA. I'm not in on Mitchell. I'd rather play the Juice check. That's my boy. I love him on showdowns. He's won me showdowns before. I think he's won me 2. people might be on him because he's put up some points last week. 5.6, only $800. He'll touch the ball once or twice. They'll give him one or two opportunities. Don't have to do much at 800. I'd rather play him than Mitchell, and I'm probably not touching Jordan Mason because he's not touching the field.
Yeah, no, I love Kyle Juszczyk. Definitely straight up would prefer Kyle Juszczyk over Mitchell if they were the same price. I mean, Juszczyk, I mean, he just does this. Like, he just gets more involved in the postseason. But, honestly, just like really looking at the numbers, even crazier because, like, obviously we all saw that Mitchell scored. So the fact that Mitchell was in for a touchdown score, CMC had a 92% snap share of that game. Like, that is like bonkers stuff. Like I mean, maybe Kyron Williams a couple games hit that 90% mark, but like, I mean, you just don't see the 90% number out of anyone. So I mean, there's no reason to gush about CMC. Obviously, you guys know how good of a play he is. I mean, you can't if you're MMEing, you can't exclude Mitchell because end of the day, CMC is a running back. We definitely know that injuries do happen. So I mean, me personally, when I'm making 5 to 6 lineups, he's just going to be in all my lineups, and I'm not going to be touching Mitchell. But obviously, a bunch of different contests, bunch of different players we're talking to. So yeah.
Yeah, good thing to bring up the injury concern. It is a showdown. Injuries do happen. It's not going to be Juszczyk getting the snaps. After that, it'd be Mitchell. Then hell, even Mason, if they dress him out, might get in there. I've been talking a lot, so I want to give you the opportunity to go through the San Francisco wide receivers and pick out a couple guys or one guy, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, sort of touch on it with Deebo Samuel. I think everything we talked about the run game, it does help Samuel. I mean, he's only good for maybe 5 to 6 ish carries, but regardless, I do think that he is gonna have. I do think he is gonna have some success when he does touch the ball on the ground. But you look at him. I mean, he came into the game listed as questionable and then immediately comes in and he has a 33% target share on the day. He was on the field for 97% of Purdy's dropbacks, which was the most on the team. He was earning a target on 26% of his routes. So when these guys are so close together, I do think that I give the slight lean to Deebo Samuel here. I mean, maybe I'm being too recency bias here, but I mean, Ayuk really got bailed out on that deep touchdown last week. He really wasn't involved much in the game at all. I mean, I guess none of the pass catches were. It was really just Deebo Samuel and CMC both having a 30% target share on the day. And it was a game again, like I expect this week, just down to the wire, close knit. And yeah, like I said, we know. I mean, we saw Deebo Samuel. Like, I mean, he can get injured any given play, so I can't say that he's the obvious option. But when these guys are priced pretty much at the same salary, I think I am just gonna lean into what I just saw last week and how much Brock Purdy really blocked onto Deebo Samuel. I'm not a big the zone man coverage guy, but if you do pay attention to that sort of stuff, the KC defense is sort of molded a little bit better for Deebo Samuel, just with him being more of the zone beater. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say Brandon Ayuk is a bad play, but again, like he really got bailed out. I mean, he in the playoffs. I mean, you look at, I guess the last 3 games, he had a 26% target share last week, which is really good. But then you look at the last 2 weeks, it's at 17 and 17%. So there really isn't a lot of volume for him. So yeah.
I'm with you. I've got Deebo over Ayuk too. If you look at the FTN wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, you see Deebo runs slightly more out of the slot. That's I mean, we're talking like 5%. So there's one small little check mark for him against Trent McDuffie compared to like Josh Williams and L'Jarius Sneed on the outside, which you don't want. And then you look at Brandon Ayuk, who he's going to see slightly more than Deebo. Sneed is covering what the left side of the field 57% of the time. Brandon Ayuk's running on the left 42% of the time compared to Deebo's 33. So that's another, fractional checkpoint for Deebo in my book. And then Jawan Jennings is the third wide receiver. So that makes Deebo even better. And Deebo is also someone that they'll, design creative. I don't know if you want to call it gadget plays. It's not a gadget play, but creative plays for Deebo just to get the ball in his hands. He's still probably, if not one, top 2 or 3, best, after the catch wide receivers in the
Yeah.
league. He still might be number one. I haven't looked at it recently, but he's definitely up there. So you just want to get the ball in Debo's hand. Slightly better matchup for me than Ayuk, definitely better than Jennings. So give me Debo. The guys behind those three, you've got Ray McLeod, Mike Connolly, and Bell. Bell didn't see the field last week. Connolly didn't see the field last week. Ray plays more special teams, ran like a route or two last week. It's just going to be a whole big helping of Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, and Kittle. And the only way Ray, Connolly, or Bell's getting on the field is if one of those gets hurt. And if you're punting a wide receiver, you should be doing it from the Kansas City side.
Yep. Completely agree.
George Kittle, he's going to be out there the entire game. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I mean, he is priced too cheap. Like he's great bet for a touchdown. I'm not ruling any of them out for two. Like someone probably scores 2 touchdowns in this game, but George Kittle, that is too cheap for him. I don't care about the matchup. This dude is ready to go. Like if there's one guy that I think's going to be the most ready to go on the 49ers, it is George Kittle. And I could see him coming out super hot. And you just know after the first quarter, you're like, I had to have Kittle. So Georgie Kittle, my favorite play, not named CMC on the 49ers. Behind him, Charlie Warner and Braden Willis. They are simply just punts if Kittle gets hurt. Again, if you're punting, you should be doing it on the Kansas City side, unless it's Kyle Juszczyk. Any more points you want to make on the 49ers? Did I rattle through that good enough?
So I'm going to start off by saying I absolutely do love George Kittle. I don't expect for him to have back-to-back weeks with a dud, especially in the Super Bowl. But I actually was writing up the Sports Injury Central newsletter earlier this morning, and I actually came across George Kittle. And I guess there's a video at the final drive. He was blocking and sort of got rolled up on his ankle. And it says he avoided severe injury based on the way his ankle twisted. But he was the only guy that is listed as a DNP already today. So that is something to monitor. Again, I looked through the notes and pretty much just said, like, by the time the Super Bowl kicks off, he's probably going to be by 90% health. So, I mean, I expect him to come back to practice this week. Again, this was something that I wouldn't have even come across by if I wasn't writing the letter. But yeah, I mean, it's a good site. It shows a video of what pretty much happened towards the end of the play. But yeah, just something to keep an eye out on. But I'm still going to have a lot of George Kittle.
Yeah, like I mean, the adrenaline running through George Kittle right before the Super Bowl should take care of most of that pain. Like I could see a scenario where it starts to bother him and he doesn't play 97% of the snaps, but he's going to play the meaningful ones. Yeah, good note though. Good thing to monitor with Kittle. Let's talk about the Chiefs, I suppose. Talked about Pacheco already. CEH is his backup. Technically, CEH is, a pass catcher. I don't know how many times you want to put the ball in his hands in a Super Bowl. I should have probably looked what they did with him last Super Bowl. That would have been a smart thing to do. What happened with CEH last Super Bowl? Do you remember?
It was all McKinnon and Pacheco, right? I remember McKinnon slid down when like he had a walk-in touchdown, but it was really just them two dominating.
Like he might not have got on the field kind of thing. I
Oh
can't
no,
remember.
actually, I don't think he did because I feel like that was like something that people were like freaking out about, like because he was out and then he got like activated or something and then he just didn't play. I think that it was
I
either the
think you're
Super Bowl.
right.
Yeah, it was the Super Bowl or the week before, but I'm 90% sure it was the Super Bowl.
I think you're right. Well, there's no McKinnon in town right now. CH was on the field 21% of the snaps last week. Gets again something not really. Something doesn't necessarily have to happen to Pacheco for CEH to be able to be the random scrub that Patrick Mahomes decides to throw it to when Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce aren't open. Like he's a absolute punt guy. I am not touting CEH, but he's in the player pool for me. Way better options though. I mean, he's just a guy that I'm not crossing off at 21% snap share last week.
Yeah, it's just a price thing. A lot of these slate guys price in his range, like they're not going to see the field. Like it's just a zero down there. So just the fact that he is going to be on the field, and he's not going to be a zero. Like he's going to get a touch. So that, given the salary, just puts him into the pool.
$1,200. I mean, he touches the ball every game. scored maybe. Did he even score against Vegas? No, he just got a few catches, 42 yards through the air. You're right. He shouldn't give you a 0. You can't go double dud in back-to-back Super Bowls. We talked about Rashee Rice. This is where it gets really, really interesting. So, Kadarius Toney active today. Is that what you saw too after his Instagram rant over the weekend?
Yeah.
Complaining that, or saying that he's not injured, pretty much coming out and just telling the world that, I got benched. Essentially, that's what I hear, right?
Yeah, but which is like super weird because like I saw that like he missed because like he was having a kid or something, and then
Oh.
all this stuff. Like I have no idea what the whole deal is. Like I feel like everyone's reporting a different story on it. But I mean, would you be shocked if he's active and just doesn't see the field? How do you put that guy out there in the Super Bowl? Like I know he scored last year, but geez.
Well, so here's my thing on it. So I don't think I don't know, but if I'm speculating, he probably didn't play because he had a kid, or he wouldn't have gone on Instagram and complained that he's not playing, right? So that's kind of that doesn't
Yeah,
make sense to me.
that's what I'm saying. It's like it's just super complicated. Like
So here's the thing. So Sky Moore could be active. Kadarius Toney could be active. So this is two pieces that are kind of coming back into the fold. Now I've heard, look, I know I know Sky Moore is not good. I know Tony's been better, but same goes for Hardman. Same goes for Richie James. Same goes for Watson, and same goes for MBS. They're all, not your first option. Okay. So what the Chiefs are going to do, it doesn't matter how big of a prick one of these guys is. If they think it's the best chance for them to win, they're going to be out on the field. If they happen to think it's Kadarius Toney, or they happen to think it's Sky Moore, I don't know why you would, or Hardman, they'll put them on the field. I don't think you going on Instagram Live if you complain, it's going to get you kicked out of the Super Bowl if they think you're the best option. Now, if they don't think you're the best option, then you're not going to be on the field. Like MBS is ahead of all of them.
yeah.
Watson is. I think that gets trickier, but I would say Watson is the second most guaranteed for snaps, at least. He played 44% of snaps last week, but he takes a hit if Sky Moore comes back and they decide that Sky Moore deserves snaps. Like, I don't know. But I could see it going anyway. What do you think about Toney? What do you think about Sky Moore? Am I factoring them in too much? Because I feel like these are the guys that people are just going to scratch off and be like, Sky Moore, who might not even play. No. Kadarius Toney didn't play last week. No. When in fact, both of them are just as good as the rest of the wide receivers for Kansas City.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the reason that I haven't given as much thought into it is because I'm making just a handful of lineups, and they're just not going to make the pool for me. But I mean, yeah, if you're making like I guess more than 5 lineups or so, like they're definitely someone that you gotta give a peek at. But I mean, I just feel like MVS it just has to be the wide receiver you go to outside of Rashee Rice if you can get there. I remember we just talked about on the 2 game slate. I mentioned that there were only 4 guys that ran a route on over 50% of Mahomes' dropbacks, and that was Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and MVS. I mean, MVS barely fit that mold. He had a 56% route participation rate when we did the show last week, and I mean, that shot up to 96% last week. Like, obviously, he didn't have much in the box score, but a guy that's playing 96% of snaps, I mean, I feel like that's massive. Like, you just don't get guys that are on the field every single play at that price. I mean, we're not getting points for routes run here, but again, it just he's gonna be on the field. He's gonna have the opportunity to actually do something, playing alongside Mahomes. And we've seen him have some blow up games in the postseason last year. He's had a big catch here and there, and if one of them goes for a touchdown, he's just someone that you needed to have. So it's clearly Rashee Rice number 1, clearly MVS number 2, and yeah, Justin Watson is the safest bet for well, I guess I can't even say that. I think having Toney and Sky Moore probably just makes me it makes me want to go to Justin Watson less because he already wasn't doing much while being on the field. And if he's just not going to be on the field again, I mean, when I say on the field, I'm talking about barely half the snaps, a little bit under. So Yeah, I feel like if he goes down to even 40-30%, he wasn't doing anything as is. So what more can we want from Watson?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then I'll also note that if Tony does play, that James and Tony kind of take away from each other there. So I wouldn't play James and Tony on the same lineup. They do have Kadarius Toney listed as a starter on the depth chart as of this morning. Rice, Watson, and Tony. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
We'll see. We got another week, right?
I think also I think they activated Sky more like early in the week last week, didn't they?
I don't know. I mean, I don't
They
think.
did. They did active because I wrote about them talking about activating him. Like he didn't suit up, but like I think he was good to go. I mean, he could have been like the Mark Andrews thing, the way they activated him and didn't play him that week too. But I don't know.
Wouldn't it just wrap a bow on the season if the guy that everyone was so high on, Sky Moore, at the beginning of the season, like just does nothing the entire season than just like Super Bowl MVP, just
Yeah,
shows up. His
everyone's
highest,
well, we've been fading Sky since day one. So
yeah, we have, buddy. I mean, he has a total. He's averaging 3.8 fantasy points per game. Like it's not pretty. He in every game he's played in, you would have only needed him on with salary considered of what his salary was at the time. He would have only made an optimal showdown lineup one time before the Miami game because he scored 16 was 3,600. After that, depending on the slate, he had a couple six burgers, like 1,600. I guess that could have got you there. Look, those guys are tough, but I agree with you ranking it Rice, MVS. And then look, if Tony's out and Sky Moore's out, it's like Watson, James in that order for me. Hardman didn't even play last week, hardly at all. Ross didn't hardly play at all, and that's it. That's all you got to choose from.
yep, and probably I mean James and Ross. They might not see the field if Sky and Tony actually get in there. So
They might see the stadium, buddy. They might stay at the hotel. I mean, so they won't be active, that's for sure. Smith probably won't anyways. I think those guys. I think Tony and Moore are going to be active. Just gut feeling. All right, Travis Kelce is what minus what is it plus like 9,800 to propose to Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl minus
yeah.
2,200 to not. Go ahead and max out the no. But Kelce, I mean, it's Travis Kelce. He's expensive. If you don't have Rice or Pacheco, play Kelce. I'm not making him a total priority, but it's Travis Kelce. You obviously want some. I don't know, how else to fluff that up.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, he's had over 70 yards in all three playoff games. He's averaging about 9 targets per game, over 5 catches in all of them. So, yeah, I mean, if you can make it work, definitely try and get to him. I think he's still a great captain play, but yeah, like I said, a 30% target share in the playoffs, definitely a guy that you want to have exposure to. We just saw what he did last week, so yeah.
Do you think he retires after the season?
I don't think he does, but it wouldn't shock me, but I don't think he is gonna. What about you?
I don't know, but I want to because you know who does know? Patrick Mahomes. And so if Kelsey's like, this is it, buddy, like last, time to get after it, win a Super Bowl. Here comes 18 targets. Just feed your boy in front of his, soon to be fiance. That'd be something I wish I knew, but we don't know that. I'm gonna have plenty of Travis Kelce.
All right, this isn't a betting show, but so get this. So Travis Kelsey, his receiving prop is around 70-ish yards, and he's plus 120 to get 25 yards in both halves. This is a prop that I take with every alpha wide receiver on like a single island slate. But yeah, if you guys have FanDuel, like go grab that because I'm just taking it every single day. I'm like, I want to stop taking that because it just hangs up there. But that stuff, I mean, that stuff hits all the time. Like it was like plus 130 for Kelsey to do that last week. But if you just look at the alpha guy and like you look at that, like I'm on Ross St. Brown, like I actually don't think he got it last week, but like most of the time, like if you get that at plus money, like, I mean, it's like 25-25. Obviously, it's like math is like 50 yards, but I don't know. I feel like that's just one that you guys got to take.
Your boy Noah Gray, 18 hunch, 5 targets last week. You were on him, I think, or his prop.
Yeah, no, I was on him as a punt because like 2,500, like he's a stone minimum. And again, like I said, only 4 guys ran a route on over 50% of Mahomes' dropbacks, and Noah Gray was one of them that week. It actually went down the past week down to 41%. But again, I feel like this is something that we have talked about on Showdown shows a lot. Is like I'm less worried about target share and more about target per route run rate because these tight ends, like when they're on the field, that means that they're getting on the field for a specific reason. Like there's a play where he's a first or second read, and the fact that he's had over 20% target per route run rate in back-to-back weeks, that means that he's only getting on the field where he's either. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be the first read, but like he's got to be 2 or 3. Like he's only getting on the field to be involved in running a route. And none of these guys, MVS, like I said, a monstrous snap share up to 96% last week. But for the most part, no one was a full-time player. Noah Gray was seeing just as many snaps as the wide receiver not named Rashee Rice. Again, now he's below MVS, but still, yeah, like he's probably the clear number 4 option behind Rashee Rice, Travis Kelsey, and MVS. I guess honestly, he's still probably above, no, he's definitely above MVS as far as target share goes. So yeah, I'd say he's probably the number 3 option in the pass game.
That's high praise for Noah Gray.
Yeah,
I don't hate it though. I mean, hell, he'll get a couple targets, maybe one in the end zone. $1,800. He's a good punt. He's a good punt. Are people going to play him? Do they realize that? Yeah. Do you still want the guy who scores the most points? Yeah, you do. So I'm not saying Noah Gray's going to be that guy, but he's a good punt. He seems like one you can count on more. But I will also make the point, like, it's more likely that someone like an MVS or a Tony or a James, Sky Moore, like get a long touchdown. That's not Noah Gray's wheelhouse, but he can get you a couple of receptions and get down in the end zone. Maybe get you one. All right, let's do slate breakers. We'll pick all the guys like that we just have to have. We'll pick a weird guy like an Anthony Ferkser type, like I chose last week. That dude almost got in at like $200.
I'm about to freak out too. Like you couldn't say inbound, just stretch out a little bit.
I saw a tweet. It said Anthony Ferkser has like the turn radius of a Carnival cruise ship. I was like, yeah, I mean, that dude should have been in. Then we'll predict the game, predict the score. So slate breakers, I'm going to start it. Favorite play of the slate. It's a showdown slate and Christian McCaffrey's on it. Christian McCaffrey's the number 1 guy.
Great call. No arguments there. I'll pick the running back on the other side. I mean, he's like a discount. He's like a discount CMC as far as volume goes, at least. So I'll say Isaiah Pacheco.
The 2 RBs, just leaving it out there for me with Rashee Rice, one of my favorite plays on the slate. Too cheap. Targets are coming unless Kelsey's retiring. So give me Rashee Rice.
And I'll go with the flop lag play and George Kittle. Again, like I said, I wrote about the injury earlier, but from looking at it, it's definitely nothing major. It looks like he'll be fine. And quietly, KC defense, it isn't really, I'd say, a great matchup for tight ends. It's not bad, but it is a good volume matchup. I want to say in the regular season, tight ends saw the 8th most targets per game facing KC's defense. So, yeah, Kittle off a dud. Like, even if he is actually hurt, which might be, like, he's going to get shot up and he's going to go balls to the walls in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'll go with Kittle.
Let's pick a quarterback. That sounds fun. Mahomes or Purdy? I will go Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to go Brock Purdy. Give me big Brock.
So I have taken the run game for the 49ers and the pass game for the Chiefs with Rice and Mahomes, and you took the run game for the Chiefs and the pass game for the 49ers. Cool. Let's do, so those are expensive guys. We know, we get it. Let's do a couple of cheap guys. So let's pick cheap guys. Then I have another segment we might branch into depending on how this one goes. So let's just say cheaper than George Kittle. If you got one, shoot. I'm gonna narrow down here.
Yeah, give me the juice. Give me Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, it just Kyle Juszczyk in the playoffs, man. Like you're consistently seeing him get a handful of touches, and I mean, he's good. Like he's a pseudo fullback tight end. Like he definitely is like more athletic than probably 70% of the tight ends out there. So yeah, I'll take Juszczyk.
This one is tough. I gotta let's see. I don't know if this is cheating or not. I don't think so. I think I want to go like a Jake Moody, like the 49ers kicker.
No, yeah,
I'll pick
that's a great one.
I'll pick another position player here, but like one of the kickers seems pretty live in this one, or sitting around 5,000. Now, if they can just move it down the field, Purdy can't convert because Kansas City has a great secondary. Maybe Moody gets involved a little bit more, and people will go look and say Butker's had a better season. That's true, but it's a kicker. It's one game. If I've got Mahomes, probably don't want the kicker too. That's not necessarily true unless it's a blowout. But yeah, Moody. All right, the next segment is called Pick a Shitty Chiefs Wide Receiver. That is the next segment. So we have to pick one of these scrubs that is going to be the highest scoring fantasy Chiefs wide receiver, not named Rashee Rice. Go ahead. Give it to me. I know you're going to say.
So MVS does count in this?
Yeah, you can take MVS.
Yeah, I think it just has to be MVS. So, he actually played more than Rashee Rice last week. But, yeah, I mean, he field a lot. Don't know if he's going to do anything besides running wind sprints. But, I mean, that's more than I can say about any of the other guys.
Yeah, well, he also just like struggles to put up points. Now that is clearly the safest one, and this one could come back to haunt me because we don't even know if the guys are going to play with Tony and Sky Moore and Richie James. I'll say if Kadarius Toney plays, that'll be my guy. That's not MBS or Rice.
You wanted this segment to tout Kadarius Toney. Don't lie to me. You wanted this segment to tout Kadarius Toney.
I didn't.
You want to play Kadarius Toney. Don't give me that.
I don't. If Tony and Sky are out, then Watson becomes pretty interesting again. I probably should have said Watson, but
I mean, like, Watson last week was the exact same route rate as Juwan Jennings too. Just to be clear.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's going to make more sense, obviously, if Tony and Sky Moore are out. The only reason I'm saying Tony here, who might not even play, is in an attempt to be a little contrarian. And I'm looking at that depth chart. And I'm looking at what Watson's been able to do, which isn't a lot. I think Tony has a better chance of scoring a touchdown than Watson if he plays, because if he plays, they're going to play about the same amount of snaps, I would think.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking about not playing him. Look, that's a really bad call probably, but that's who I'll take because that's the segment. Pick a shitty Chiefs wide receiver. All right, let's pick the winner, predict the score. How do we do it? Do I get to choose first since you tied it up on me last week? For everyone who doesn't know, watching this free, Sam and I pick every game on the showdowns. I was up 2 last week. I let him pick first. I took the opposite teams. He got 2 up. He got 2 on me. That was a gentleman's play, and I thought the Chiefs were going to win, as noted on this stream.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess it doesn't matter who goes first because we're just going to make our actual predictions, right? Since it's tied up anyways, like we can't get a leg up on each other. So whatever you want.
I mean, I think it's tough, man. I like, it's like the guy with the Vietnam nightmares, like flashbacks of Kyle Shanahan in Super Bowls. Like as a Falcons fan, we saw that travesty unfold right in front of our eyes with the 49ers. Can't get it done. Going up against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes wins Super Bowls for the most part. Kyle Shanahan loses Super Bowls. Who do I think has a better team? I think the 49ers have a better team overall. You go a lot of ways, dude. I'm not sure. My take on this show, I guess, will be the 49ers. I guess, but that is subject to change until lock of the Super Bowl. So it's not official on my record. Right now I'm leaning 49ers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I mean, the 49ers, like, I don't really think it's a debate that they have more talent on their roster, but I mean, I'm saying 49ers because I'm forced to pick a side, but it's like the Mahomes factor just balances everything out. Even Travis Kelce, those guys experience in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, and I mean, I'd say that. I'd say Detroit. I mean, they're a much better offense, but as far as their team structure, I think that Detroit and KC are probably evenly talented, and Detroit definitely probably should have won that game last week. So I'm going to say 49ers just because I think they have the better roster. And that's the only thing I can use as a tiebreaker between these two. But yeah, I don't really have a good feel for it. My futures would hope that it is 49ers, but I can't say that confidently.
I can't say it confidently either. I hear myself saying 49ers and then like the little voice in my head shouting Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win. It's Kelsey, it's Mahomes, it's the Super Bowl, it's Andy Reid, it's Kyle Shanahan, it's Brock Purdy. Do you lose the Super Bowl twice if you're the 49ers? I don't know. Maybe. Teams have done it before. Predict the score. So let's predict the score. If the 49ers win, they're going to have to score some points. Thanks, Bug. All right. I think Shanahan's probably going to try and get over that 28 he dropped for the Falcons. So give me. All right. I guess I got one.
Yeah, I think, I guess I'll go. I actually don't. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a big offensive game. So, because I do respect both these defenses. I think I'm going to go 21-24 San Francisco.
Okay. So that's kind of where I was looking at too. That's about the range, buddy.
It's a good number.
I'll give. I mean, I'm kind of looking at like a 21-24 too. Let's do this. Let's go 27-24. But I've got 24-20, 24-21 at the end of regulation. Patrick Mahomes drives it down the field. They kick a field goal. 24-24 goes into overtime. San Francisco wins it with a field goal. That's what I got.
If it's going to overtime, Mahomes is going to win. So.
Yeah, I know. I was struggling to get something out there, but all right. So here's the deal. That's the first look at the NFL DFS stuff for the Super Bowl. Again, I told you if you want to join up NBA, PGA, the Super Bowl, or go over to FTN Bets, the promo code is FTNSB for 25% off your first month. So go check that out. The articles will be out for the Super Bowl, the optimizer, the ownership, the Two Gun and Alex show. Should be a pretty big deal. And Sam, maybe the biggest deal is the Deadpool 3 trailer that drops during the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
We're all very excited about it. Did you see the Tua Super Bowl commercial?
No, I haven't.
Go look up the Tua Super Bowl commercial on Paramount. It's good. It's a Paramount commercial. Don't go to Paramount. Paramount commercial. It's like a bunch of celebrities. It's funny. It's good. So far, it's the best one I've seen, and I've only seen one, but it's got Tua in it, so I love it. Appreciate everyone watching the show. Sam, it has been a pleasure, buddy. I guess that's it. I guess I'll see you next year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep in touch. You know that. Maybe we'll spring another show on y'all on another sport some other day. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Bye.